Yes, you do.
Minus a paperclip. Okay. So it's 7:32. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And I'd like to invite the board secretary to do a roll call of the directors.
Okay. Board President Naylor.
Here.
Director Green.
Here.
Director Oyserman.
Here.
Director Perry.
Here.
And Director Shea.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Welcome to the September 8th regularly scheduled Marinwood CSD board meeting. I'll read the rules. Again, this is a virtual meeting of the Marinwood CSD Board of Directors pursuant to Executive Order N2920 issued by the Governor of the State of California. There will not be a public location for participating in this meeting. Any interested member of the public can participate telephonically or via internet by utilizing the web link or the dial-in information that's printed on the agenda. At points in the meeting when the chair requests public comment, members of the public participating in the live meeting, either via internet or telephone, can indicate their desire to speak. If participating via the internet, please click on the raise hand feature located within the Zoom application screen. If connected by telephone, please dial *9. Okay, moving on to item B, the agenda. Does anyone on the board have any changes to the agenda this evening?
Jeff, can we do a roll call before we move on to that?
We
did.
We did.
Oh, did I miss that? Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry,
You
got
did.
100 things. Then yes, on the agenda, I would like to suggest, obviously it's up to you, Jeff, Gary Klein, who's the actuary, is already logged in. If we wanted to just push him to the very top. So I know he's got other things to do tonight as well. If you wanted to move item E1, the OPEB report, to immediately after the agenda, I am sure he would greatly appreciate it if that is okay with everybody.
All right.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to amend the agenda as recommended?
I motion to amend the agenda as recommended.
Second.
Sivan and Bill, I believe, first and
I had
second.
Sivan and Isabella, but I'll put Bill.
All
Sorry.
right, whatever.
Everybody.
Sorry.
We can go with you, Tiffany. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead,
Oh.
Tiffany. You might as well go ahead and do the roll call since we're doing that.
Sure. Board President Naylor.
Aye.
Director Green.
Aye.
Director Oyserman.
Aye.
Director Perry.
Aye.
Director Shea.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to item E1, other post-employment benefits, valuation as of June 30, 2019. Is Mr. Klein with us?
Yeah, I'm pushing him through right now. Gary, are you there?
He's muted.
He's gone. Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
Great. All right.
There I am. Okay.
Great.
I was muted.
I got you. You're good. We can all hear you now.
Okay, so I could share my screen, and because I was welcome to I should say I've been here listening to you. So when you're in the waiting room, I can participate, I guess, as a public member. So now welcome to my space. But I have actuarial valuation report that I completed recently for the district. And so I can, I guess I'm going to share screen with you to bring that up. Let's see if this works. So do you see the report?
On my
Yes.
screen.
Yes, we
Pardon?
do.
Was that a yes?
That's a yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Because it's showing up funny on my side. And also, if I'm not staring at the camera when I speak, it's because I have 3 screens. So it shows up on my middle screen. But so this is the cover page, but it says down there in the last paragraph, my credentials. I'm associate of the Society of Actuaries, member of the Academy of Actuaries, and a fellow of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries. And that thus I am also the Vice President, Chief Operating Officer of Nicolay Consulting here. Actually, I've been in the business about 30 years and a little over 30 years. And so almost all of those in retiree medical plans. And so I will be talking about the district's retiree medical plans. This report is rather lengthy, and I'm going to keep my discussion to about 15 minutes since there's not a whole lot of new news this year. And so I will talk about the highlights and the gap analysis up here. But I assume all of you have received a copy of the valuation report already. And if there's any particular section of the report you would like me to talk about, I'd be happy to. So moving on to the management summary highlights. So on this page, on the upper right, you see that we're showing 2018 and 2019 as a side-by-side. This 2019 is June 30, 2019. These numbers are as of that date. And this is for fiscal year 20 accounting purposes. And we actually report numbers a lot like CalPERS reports its pension liabilities, for example, on your balance sheet. It's a year in arrears. So the costs that are shown in this report are for the 18-19 year in that 2019 column and ending at 6/30/19. And so that is a full year before your fiscal year that is being reported. That is, these numbers are being reported in. So that's why the title is 2019. And the first numbers up there are, it's a 5.6 million present value future benefits, which represents for current employees and current retirees, all the current value of all benefits to be paid in the future, both based on service today and service in the future for active employees. The total OPEB liability, or also called actual accrued liability, this is for based on the same thing, but based on service to date. It does not include service and benefits that are expected to be earned in the future for current employees. So you can see that the active liability is lower in this total OPEB liability than it is in the present value future benefits. There's about $1.2 million to be earned in the future. And in comparing these numbers to the prior year, there is not a whole lot of change, which is actually 2 big things canceling each other, which I'll get into on the next page. The assets are, you just started pre-funding. And so the assets last year were 60,000, they're up to 170,000 now. And the district intends to contribute about 60,000 a year. So it's on the path to funding this plan. Let's see. Then the actually determined contribution this is what, if you were to fund the plan over get it fully funded over a period of, I think about 20 years, this is how much you would need to put in to the plan. It's about $400,000. So if your only putting in 60. Why are we saying you're putting in 311? You're actually paying benefit payments from general fund assets. And so that's the rest of the money. So the total, that is a contribution to the plan as well as a benefit payment. And so that's why your benefit payments and the cost, cash flow cost of this plan is more around the $300,000 range. So you're actually contributing at a level that is a lot nearer what it would take to fully fund this plan over about a 20-year period. And this, let's see, I'm going to say the active counts and the retiree are down here. The rest of this information is really just information that is an influencer to the numbers above and why they change. You can see that the participants, there's 3 new retirees. That's actually a material change. In a pension plan, if somebody retires early, then the benefits are reduced to reflect that early retirement. In a retiree medical plan, that's generally not the case because it's not pay related. If you retire early, you just get the medical benefits sooner. And so now you're paying for it over for a longer period of time. So that could create a loss. And it in fact did, where your retirees grew by 3 participants, the active population didn't decline by 3. So your overall population grew. And so the discount rate is actually what you're assuming assets will return in the future long term. So because you're pre-funding the plan at a level that's close to your actually determined contribution, you get to use this discount rate to discount your future cash flows. And your liability would be higher if you were using a lower discount rate, such as bond rates, which would be required. They'd be around 2.8% right now, as opposed to 6.5%. And then there's the initial trend rate and ultimate trend rate. These are a little lower this year, and that is because healthcare cost increases are anticipated to be lower, according to the most recent surveys. And that also created some savings. So looking at the actual sources on the next page of the gap analysis, the liability decreased about $13,000 from June 30, 18 to June 30, 19. That's almost no change, but you can see there's lots of change. This is in thousands, so it went up about $341,000 due to expected increases, meaning we believe the liability would go up with interest and for 1 year as it moved from 18 to 19, and there'd be accruals for 1 year. So that'd be about $340,000 or $186,000. But then there was those retirements that occurred early and other actual demographic experience, the new hire, for example, that would increase your create losses and make the total increase in liability due to those items about a third of $1 million. And then there were those assumption changes, the lowering of the trend rate. There was savings because your premiums didn't increase as much as we expected, the assumed trend rate last year. And as a result of those items, and then a myriad of other things that were relatively small, it ends up that the net change is very small. So down here, it says expected, and actual to the, it keeps hiding it right there, but I go up right here, actual. That's actual demographic experience. So it's expected benefits earned, and if there was no gains and losses, this is how much your liability increased. This showing your actual census data is what was the other increase, the actual retirements and actual new hires. And then you can see the other items are relatively small to these. And these two assumption changes are the big drivers of what offset that liability increase. So no news is good news, but if you dig into the numbers, it's actually two things offsetting each other. So that's my 15 minutes of fame. Do I have any questions?
Anybody from the board have any questions? Gary, I pay much more attention to the pension obligations than OPEB, and I do understand that there is a site out there called Transparent California that lists the people who are from our district that are receiving pension benefits. Is there any list at all available for those people that are receiving OPEB benefits? The reason I ask is I can't reconcile the numbers between CalPERS pension reports, this report, and the Transparent California report. The numbers seem to be all over the place.
When you say numbers, do you mean the count of people?
The numbers of people who are retired and receiving benefits.
Okay. So down at the bottom, we talk about the demographics here and eligibility for the plan. And I think for here, essentially eligibility, what I look for here is tiers. If you have anybody excluded, like it'd be pretty bold headings here saying employees hired after a certain date or before a certain date, it would show tiers. But it would appear that you cover everybody. So the only reason the counts would be different here versus your pension plan is that if somebody terminated prior to age 50, they would not get medical, but they could still age into pension.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that reason, you would have more pension retirees on the books than medical. You do not vest in medical if you leave before the eligibility age, even if you had 20 years of service.
That's potentially what's causing it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Normal cost. The other question I had is, I thought I read somewhere that the terms normal cost and service cost are synonymous.
Yes.
And in one place, I think it was page 4, something that is called normal cost is $97,092.
Right.
And on page 11, something called service cost is $104,223.
Right. So this was actually a big debate in our office about what to show on this page. So here's the normal cost. It's $97,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's forward-looking. This valuation date is 6/30/19, and the way our valuation systems work is to push out these numbers, these liabilities as of this date, as well as the cost of benefits being earned in the coming year. It's just a default of how actuarial valuation systems work, programs work, that when we push the plan provisions into the system, we push the assumptions into the system, we push the data, participant data into the system, and then press go, and the numbers come out. It tells us a liability as of a specific date, 6/30/19, and then the cost of benefits being earned in the coming year from 19 to 20, and benefit payments for 19 to 20. And so the problem with GASB is that it's retroactive looking. So when you look at these numbers, our liability, actually, I'm going to go back up so you can see it. Our liability is 4489950, and down here, the 448,950 is end of year. Beginning of year is 4.5 million, and your service cost during the year from the beginning to end is 104,000. So that is probably the same service cost that's on page 11, this one on page 6. And so this is actually a prior year service cost. And if you looked at our report last year, that normal cost should have been this 104,000. So one of the things this is telling you is that you had 19 employees, I think it was last time, and 17 this time. You have a lower normal cost this year. So one of this thing is telling you, this is telling you is not what happened with last year's expense, and that was reported in fiscal year 20, but what your expense is going to be a little bit lower in terms of benefits being earned next year. So it could probably have some footnote or some language down here that explains this. We certainly have a lot of real estate on this page that we can add value.
Okay, understood. Thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
Okay.
Does anyone else on the board have any questions for Gary? Okay, hearing none. Anybody in the public have a question?
Yeah, Jeff, let me get out of this screen share here, please.
Did you want me to stop share?
Oh,
Oh.
I got it. We're good.
Uh.
Okay, 1 second. Steven, it's your turn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, this is a question for Mr. Klein. If we reduce employees, if we say we outsourced more of our recreation programs and parks maintenance, possibly if we merged our fire department, what would that do to our OPEB liabilities long term?
So generally, your OPEB liability for existing employees would stay the same. If they're currently retired, it would stay the same. If they're eligible to retire at the time, and how future retirees for people that are in the current plan, if you terminate them and they leave before becoming eligible, which is 50 and 5, then they'd probably be leaving without benefits. But that would reduce that liability. When you do this type of change to your structure of delivery of services, it's usually trying to get economies of scale. But the service providers that you're inviting in have these benefits, or theoretically do have these benefits as well. So you end up getting it back, but through economies of scale, you get savings generally.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical. Some communities outsource their rec departments, for example. And if they did that, we would be contracting with a private company. So basically, all the employees from that section, if they have qualified for the OPEB benefit, would still be on the books. But if they haven't, they would not be on the books. Is that correct? And I guess it would also be true with the parks and the fire department as well. The reason why there's been discussions in the past where Bill Hansel, actually, the architect who now wants to build a big building had recommended several years ago that we outsource all of our maintenance, and that at that time we had employed 5 people. So, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get a picture of is if we do some things now, can it change the picture in the future significantly, or are we simply locked in to these long-term debts?
And from my perspective, it's it's always the devil's in the details. So but literally, who are you letting go? Is it young people or older people that are eligible to retire? If they are eligible to retire and you let them go, they will retire. And you know that, you just experienced that if people retire earlier than expected, your liability goes up. So if the group that you're letting go is predominantly younger people that are not eligible for benefits, you may get savings. But the flip side would be that if they're older, you may get losses.
Okay, not that we necessarily want to do this. We want to look at the quality of our staff. It's just, I think we're all concerned about the fiscal health of the district, and we should certainly have options, understand the options that we have before us. Thanks. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there anybody else from the public that has comment or a question?
Nope.
Okay. Gary, thank you very much for the report, very thorough, and answering the questions.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item C, the consent calendar. Does any member of the board have any questions with regard to the August 11th meeting minutes and/or the bills paid?
I asked my questions before.
I would like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that. Tiffany,
Okay,
it
I'm
was
pretty
Sivan.
sure that time it was Isabella making the motion and Sivan seconding. Do you agree, Tiffany?
I do. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All
Would
right.
you like to vote now?
Well,
Well, could I ask a question?
Oh,
yes.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
How much of the overtime, because it's pretty hefty this month, is going to be covered by the state?
I don't have the exact calculations, but I can tell you, I mean, we had people each out on 2-week long, one
Yeah.
employee each out on 2-week long serves. So, total of 4 weeks out of county. All of that obviously will be recovered. And then also on there, just had some regular vacation, as well as have one employee who's been out with injury.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? Or comments from the public?
Yeah, 1 second.
Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
Okay, yeah, once again, we know that this has been a disastrous year financially, but we don't know how, and that's because the way that these reports are written, we really just don't understand. It's really hard to understand, how much is going out and how much is coming in, if any. I assume that we're operating big losses in all of our rec programs. And it would be helpful from a public's perspective to format this in a way that it's readily understood. And so, quite frankly, corrections can be made to improve operations. As far as, well, I don't have anything to say about specific expenses this month, I'm looking around at the services being provided. We've got a lot of cost. It seems like, you know, there's not a lot of stuff being done. I look forward to the reports here, but in business, when your revenues are down and there's not a lot of action, you make adjustments. And I see actually no managerial adjustments to the staffing levels or the activities. It seems like there's even less stuff going on now. But we'll talk about that later. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Any further discussion from the board before I ask for the vote? Tiffany?
Board President Naylor,
Aye.
Director Green,
Aye.
Director Oyserman,
Aye.
Director Perry,
Aye.
Director Shea.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item D, public comment, open time for items not on the agenda. Members of the public will have up to 3 minutes to comment on items not covered elsewhere on the agenda. Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
Okay. I guess, is there anyone else here besides me from the public? I want to comment on a couple things. First of all, it's for the last probably 6 months, Siobhan has mentioned that she had private conversations, or many of you make this remark, private conversations with Eric. So she didn't need to discuss anything at the public meeting. You know, that kind of shortchanges the public from knowing what's going on with the district and what's going on specifically with each individual director, what their concerns are. So I would ask that if you've got questions ahead of time, go ahead and ask them, but ask them again during the public meeting so we can know what's going on. 3 of you are leaving, I assume. I don't know what the deal was. I was surprised, Jeff and Isabella and who else? Leah, that you decided not to run again. Therefore, I guess, you know, what you do in the next few months is your legacy. And it's unfortunate that you're leaving during this tough time with this massive project planned with little input from the public, and we really don't know what the costs are. I had hoped that each one of you would bring a good long-term vision to the community. We have an opportunity to improve things. We now know because of COVID how important our parks and open space are. I hope that you will, as part of your legacy for the next few months, look at opportunities where we can improve our parks and open space. There are a lot of not so costly things that we could do to make it nice on smoky days for people to walk in our parks, like adding park benches, making sure we have functioning fountains, hand railings where they're needed, proper signage so bikes don't run over pedestrians. Lots and lots of stuff that you could be doing. I appreciate what you've done. I mean, this is public service, and you're not getting paid any more than I am for sitting here. And I realize that you have devoted, even though we haven't always agreed, you have devoted part of your blood, sweat, and tears in this project. And I would just ask that you think of ways to leave something of note in the wake of your service, and as a remembrance of your service.
Okay, Stephen, thank you for your remarks. Anybody else from the public?
I get it.
Excuse me?
I think that was Bill.
Yeah, I think you're okay, Jeff.
Okay,
And there's no other member of the public, no.
okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on then to item E, district matters. We've already covered E1 after moving that up front, so we'll move on to E2. This is an update on pension liability analysis with the August 2020 release of the CalPERS annual valuation reports measured at June 30th of 2019. Basically the same time frame that Gary Klein talked about the OPEB values. I am not going to regurgitate this entire report. The intention of the report was twofold, and that is to continue on with what we've talked about over the last 5 years, and also as a trail of breadcrumbs, so to speak, for incoming board members, so they have a little bit of context as to why we are where we are with regard to pensions. Pointedly, you know, obviously, we've pointed out 5 years in a row that the district's history of granting and enriching benefits in lieu of pay increases is probably the watershed event as to why we have the liability that we have with our pensions. And I'm speaking specifically of the 3 at 50 pension obligation that was approved in 2000 and almost immediately given to safety employees in this district, a district that has no sales tax revenue and limited revenue resources otherwise. Anyway, the annual cash payments continue at a very high level, and our liabilities continue to go up in spite of those extra payments. Reason being that the portfolio of assets intended to pay for those pension benefits do not meet expectations, even at the lower 7% discount rate that CalPERS moved to over a 3-year period ending last year. Total cash of $642,000 predicted in this year for both normal cost and the actuarially required contribution is approximately 50% of covered payroll. So other than the PEPRA plans, which are relatively equal in terms of employer versus employee payments, and certainly from an actuarial standpoint, much more affordable and sustainable, the classic pensions continue to be our issue and are very similar in nature to Ponzi schemes, i.e. every year benefits are being paid out with new infusions of cash, which are basically funds that are being redirected from programs specifically for safety, but safety operations, park, rec, etc. So that's essentially where we are with pensions. I'm not going to go any further. There are a number of charts and stuff for your analysis, and I guess I'll just open it up to any questions from the board.
If I may, Jeff, first of all, thank you so much for this thorough analysis. You've been really a champion of us understanding where we stand fiscally when it comes to OPEB and pensions, and the situations has never been clearer. You were right in thinking of leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for the incoming board members to push the effort further. And I especially liked your concise 5 points at the end in the summary that are really potential paths forward or opportunities for us to impact the situation. If I may presume, item 1 and 5 are really non-starters because the Number one, which is the means sizing and determining any latitude the district has to reduce cost or liabilities associated with providing retiree healthcare. That really strikes at the California rule, and it may be very difficult to curtail these obligations. And number five, with the potential tax measure, us being residents, I think we're all equally allergic to the word new tax. And so our fellow co-residents, I don't foresee a success of another tax measure. And I would urge the future boards to consider something else. However, items 2, 3, and 4 are worth, in my opinion, further looking into and exploring. So I'm wondering if we should think of pushing it further somehow, whether to break it down into a commission or just individual projects. I really don't know how it would make the best sense to proceed, but I guess long story short, thank you so much for all this information, and I think we should do something with it, not just look at the report, but really push forward with our efforts to be in control of our ship as much as we can.
Thank you, Isabella. Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to say thank you again, kind of echoing everything that Isabel said with championing this and making sure that those of us who came in recently understood where we are and are leaving the, as you say, the breadcrumbs for people coming in. I also looked at the 5 points that you said, and I agree, while 1 and 2 are really not things that we can start with. I also believe that number 2 is going to be a hard one to do, considering that we don't pay our employees really equivalent to what other districts are paying them. I think that the fact that we had a good healthcare kind of has made up for that. And taking that away with also the pay not being equal might make it harder for us to retain employees. We're kind of between a rock and a hard place, since hindsight is 20/20, and we aren't the ones that made the decision, and you clearly can't take away stuff that you've already promised people that they worked hard for. So yes, we are in a hard place, but I think we'll figure out a way without harming our current employees or our past employees somehow.
Thank you, Sivan. Anybody else on the board? Okay, we'll comment on something that Isabella pointed out. Item number 1, mean sizing is to affect OPEB, not the pension. The reason it's brought up quite often is because, as stated in the so-called California rule, at this point in time legally, we cannot change the details of a pension without offering equal compensation. It's sort of a no-win, situation. However, there are organizations who have modified their post-employment medical benefits in order to right their ship, and that's what item 1 was supposed to talk about. Leah, you have something to say? I just saw you come back on. I thought maybe you did.
No, sorry. I was just moving my hair out of my face. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Very good. Anything further from the board? Okay. Public comment.
Is Bill on the? Oh, Bill is on the line. Okay, I just was curious. I don't see his video. I guess he's shy tonight, or maybe he wanted to get in his jammies. Who who knows? First of all, I wanted to say, Jeff, thank you very much. I know, though we've had disagreements, I know that this has been one area that you've been very passionate about, as well as you, Isabella. I know you're quite concerned, and of course, it is a very, very important issue. And you both have made, positive advances to righting the ship. The problem is that, the leaks remain, and unless we get ahead of this devil, we're not going to actually achieve success. And so there are additional things that we can do. No, we don't have sales tax. We never had sales tax. It's never been, for 60 years, we've never had sales tax. That should not ever come up as an excuse. All we really have is our property taxes, and our revenue from our rec programs. The good news is we have great rec programs. So if I were in your position, which I'm not, I would recommend looking at ways to expand the rec programs and make them profitable, outsourcing where it makes sense, and making sure that our staffing levels remain efficient and responsive, and also pay our employees competitive wages. In other words, just tighten up everything, and then start looking at the recreation programs as an opportunity to bring in revenue to build up that shortfall. The other thing we should be doing on a fast track basis is seeing how we can merge our fire department or get fire services outsourced, because we really cannot afford to have the level of coverage that we have, especially since 60–70% of all of our fire department services are fought outside our district, where you're basically asking the local taxpayers to pay the long-term obligations that really should be shared by the city of San Rafael. So there are options. They're very aggressive options. It would require some aggressive, out-of-the-box thinking, some hard numbers crunching, and maybe a new managerial approach to the way that we do business. Maybe the next crew will decide to do that.
Okay, Stephen, thank you. Appreciate your comments. One comment I would like to make, in a meeting that I attended with then President Leah Green and San Rafael Mayor and Vice Mayor, they stated the obvious, and that is, wow, why would a district with your sources of revenue ever consider offering that pension plan? It's a good question. They said it right out, and the Vice Mayor basically said, well, your alternative may be the nuclear option. And I won't go any farther as to what that meant, but it does have a certain flavor of Marinwood no longer having its own dedicated fire department. That's straight from San Rafael. Okay, anything else before we move on? All right, item E3, policy allowing for temporary benefit accommodations in response to COVID-19.
Thanks, Jeff. So I tried to include a detailed memo as to, the origin and why this came about. In large part, this is a result of speaking with our firefighters and their employee group representative, and recognizing that the Family First Coronavirus Response Act really doesn't account for people who work shifts greater than a 40-hour a week shift, as our firefighters work on average a 56-hour-a-week shift. This policy, albeit temporarily, is here to relieve that. And note that if you're looking at the FFCRA, which grants, in theory, 2 full weeks of time off if needed under very specified conditions, which have been included in this policy, for a firefighter who works a 24-hour shift in a single day, that really only covers 3 of their shifts or 3 days, usually less than a week's worth of time. By moving this up to 120 hours, that gives them 5 full complete days that they can take in the spirit of what the FFCRA was written to do. The other thing that this policy does too is it kind of sets a formal standard that, for these reasons also stated, it allows employees to go negative into a leave balance to a certain threshold if they do not have a sufficient leave balance, meaning they've used all of their COVID time, they've used their sick time, they've used their vacation time. They can go negative into a sick leave balance that, of course, has to be earned back and or paid back if it employee terminates before all of it has been earned back through a natural accrual. This does have a expiration date set with it that corresponds with the expiration date for the FFCRA. It does also have a clause, though, that if the FFCRA was to be extended by the federal government, this policy will automatically be extended to the same date. And of course, it also notes that should the FFCRA not be extended, the board still has an option to extend this policy. It doesn't extend or renew or reset anything. We will track how many hours somebody uses. If this gets extended, it doesn't mean all employees get another 80 hours or another 120 hours. And the FFCRA would still apply to all non-first responders. With that, I will see if there's any questions.
So Eric, if I may, I would imagine our fire department is not the only to need this amendment. Therefore, I'm expecting all municipalities around us had to pass similar amendments, correct?
Several did, yes. I don't know what the latest update was, but when I looked at this last month, yes, several have granted very, very similar amendments as to this, or temporary policies.
And another question I have in terms of accounting of the, or forwarding the leave days, we have means to account for it and keep track of it in our software, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a simple spreadsheet that we'll keep track of in the admin office, so we know for
Oh, it's a
this
spreadsheet, okay.
for this very specific reason how many hours people have taken, both within the allocated leave as well as if they needed to go negative. I will say the negative balance, it's in there just because, you know, things could go really haywire for a specific individual who maybe gets really sick or family gets really sick. In terms of sick leave balances currently on the books, most of our employees are, if they need to go into this and start to negative accrue, boy, they're gonna, that means that they're facing a real medical issue.
I
It's taking a
know.
long period of
I
time.
should have started with the fact that I hope that we don't have to use this policy, or, you know, people don't
I think
have
we all hope that,
Right.
and it also doesn't, you know, take into account that there's certain, you know, managerial protocols that come into place too, especially on the fire side as well. You know, due to known exposures or suspected exposures that don't necessarily fall into a policy, they fall into, you know, just the managerial processes on how we deal with that.
Certainly. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Other questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public?
1 second.
Go ahead, Steve.
What are the long-term, what's the effect on retirement and I guess beyond this period after this program expires? I'm just concerned that, you know, there's some unspoken cost here, maybe that would affect our OPEB liabilities. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's very complicated. Of course, we want to treat our firefighters fairly. I know they've been putting in a lot of hours, or I assume they've been putting in a lot of hours recently because of all the wildfires. We just want to make sure that we're not agreeing to a cost that we don't know what it's going to cost us.
Just to clarify, this policy is not only affecting our safety personnel, it affects all our staff.
Well, yes. Sorry, Isabella, go ahead. If you had something else, sorry. Yes, the FFCRA applies to all staff. There is a provision within the FFCRA that allows first responders to be excluded from that. So in essence, this policy is excluding them from that and then basically giving them back the same benefit, but giving them at a level that would allow them to have 2 full weeks. All of the terms that are written into this policy come directly word for word from the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. In terms
And there is no long-term effect to OPEB because of this policy.
No,
just
this
to
doesn't
answer
affect
Steve's
that.
question.
No, this doesn't affect that at all. It doesn't affect pension. It doesn't affect retirement. This is simply a temporary policy that mirrors a federal government policy.
May I so then make a motion to approve the policy as presented?
Isabella, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sivan, thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Tiffany?
Board President Naylor,
Aye.
Director Green,
Aye.
Director Oyserman.
Aye. Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. Director Perry
Aye.
and Director Shea.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item E4, District Manager's Report.
Yeah, just a few items of note in here. The main one that I have on top. Last week, we did have a site visit from a consultant that works with our insurance company, the Special District Risk Management Authority, who we contract through for property liability as well as workman's comp. They went through, looked at all of our, kind of policies and procedures as well as site blocks. It went very well. They were very, it was pretty quick, pretty efficient. He also provided a lot of templates if we ever are in need of updating things, but he said all of our related policies and procedures look very good. All of the facilities look very good. The right things are in place where they are supposed to be in place from a physical perspective. So that went well. They do that about every 4 years, excuse me. Just to also note that we still do have our active FEMA claim. In fact, I have a meeting with representatives from FEMA tomorrow morning. Just process, as we know from previous claims, that nothing moves fast. And this was really started as a precautionary measure in the event that actual expenditures did start to mount. This was an avenue to get them redone, and I put some samples in there. I haven't been getting a lot of response, surprisingly, on the financial audit, but I'm still pushing that. And hopefully by next week, we'll be able to, or next month, be able to make a decision. Otherwise, on the other items of note, you can just see there that all of our special tax information has been confirmed with the county. And the next thing I'll be working on in relation to this fiscal year is reconciling out the budget and contract agreements for fire protection of CSA 13, as well as the county properties adjacent to CSA 13.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody on the board have any questions for Eric? Okay, I have a couple.
Right.
Why do you think we're not getting any input from soliciting a new auditor?
I think a little bit of it, that's a hard question for me to answer. Some of it is, it's just a tricky time to be taking on new clients when every single thing is happening remotely and they don't have a chance to, typically, especially that first year of an audit, they're meeting with you a lot more and looking in on the papers and the procedures on what you're doing. And that's been hampered greatly this year. But I'm going to keep pressing it. I've gotten some other referrals just late last week of some outfits that I'm going to reach at, and I'm going to go back to some of these other ones that I reached out to just to confirm whether or not I can expect something from them.
Okay, but if there are none, the conclusion is by retaining our current auditor, we'd have to change the partner. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Their proposal listed a different lead auditor.
Okay, and from what I can recall from my CSDA days, that meets the spirit of the change. Is that correct?
Absolutely conforms.
Okay, very good. Anything new on the PG&E test in our open space?
No, I have not heard anything from them. I drove by. They do still have some of their equipment out there. But I haven't heard from them. I haven't heard from any of the immediate neighbors. That said, I haven't really reached out and said, hey, how's your testing going? But I certainly can.
Okay, I was just curious. It's still ongoing though at this point.
Yes.
Okay. All right. If there are no other questions from the board, I'll open it up to the public. Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
Yes. Looks like you've been busy, Eric. So my question is not what you have reported, it's what you haven't reported. And, we're in the midst of the largest capital expenditure probably for the last couple of decades. The project's moving forward. I know you put out something for a temporary site on Miller Creek Road. I guess there's a couple questions. First of all, you guys must be talking about this, at least I hope you are, because you're our representatives. But, why aren't we getting regular reports of what's going on, how much it's going to cost, how much is anticipated to cost, what the challenges are, what are some of the successes, what our timeline is. I mean, this is how you be a transparent government agency, and unfortunately, you haven't been doing that. On one hand, I know you're all concerned about our long-term liabilities. Well, this one project that we're doing can really affect our long-term financial situation, and I hope it doesn't. So that's the question I have for Eric and also the rest of the board, why we're not being a little bit more just even talking about it, the project publicly.
I'm happy to give a really quick update on this project, Jeff, if you want.
Yeah, other than the fact that this is something that should have been handled in the public comment for open items, not on the agenda. But otherwise, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the schedule that was shared, I believe it was a July meeting, we're still on track with. We've been working with at the county trying to finalize our demolition permit, at which point I know also Luke has been working on it. It is in his report, setting up the temporary measures so that our guys can continue to work, albeit in a very restricted manner. Once the demo permit comes through, that will be, we will absolutely start putting that out for informal bidding. And we're still finishing up on the actual construction drawings, and that'll go into the permitting stage with the county as well. I will say the county is not moving quickly on these. This is actually taking quite a while on their end. Even just to get a acknowledgement of response. Everything is no contact. Everything, I mean, you're leaving things in a folder on a table outside the door. Some stuff that can go electronically. So, but But for all intents and purposes, we're still on the same schedule that was shared at the public meeting.
Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
Any further? Well, I think Stephen's already commented. Is there any other comment from anyone else in the public?
No.
Okay. Thanks for that report. All right, we'll move on to item F, Fire Department matters. Item F1, draft minutes of the Fire Commission meeting of September 1st. Anybody on the board have any questions? Okay. There was something on there about fire alert, but I'm sure the chief will speak to that. Nothing from the board. Okay, anybody from the public want to comment on the draft minutes of the Fire Commission meeting?
Yeah, 1 second.
Eric, do we need to say that I didn't attend?
No, because technically you're not on the commission.
Okay.
Hello?
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Since everything is a Zoom meeting, these meetings are recorded. I request that you make them public on the YouTube channel. The information provided to the public is insufficient to know what's going on. Back to, I assume Eric is talking about a public meeting. He doesn't specify the date, what public meeting, who was at that public meeting. None of the, I mean, there's absolutely nothing that we get from our district manager to know that this project is on time, on schedule, and something, quite frankly, that we can afford as a community. What are you planning to do? Are you planning to sneak a tax measure, or what are you gonna, I don't know, are you gonna crash the district?
Is this the fire? Does this have anything to do with the fire?
This has everything to do with
Draft minutes of the Fire Commission.
yes. Thanks, Bill.
Bullshit.
Thank you very much, Bill. I'm glad that you are now on camera, because what I am asking for is transparency. We don't have transparency. What's going on? I'm requesting it of the board to make certain that we have recordings. Can I have that promise for you guys, from you guys, that you're going to make those the Zoom meetings public? Yes. Hey guys,
Is there?
do you guys want to be sued individually? Is that what you want? Because quite frankly, you are abusing your privileges, and God damn it, I'm sure you're breaking laws.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're breaking laws, and I hope you're financially hit with the abuse that you created to this district. This is not right.
My understanding is that the board meetings are recorded and available to public.
Where are they available? Where are they available? I'm asking, I started out by saying I would like them up on YouTube. Are they up on YouTube?
I believe that.
I
Eric
believe you
said
can
yes.
access them through our website.
There are two matters here, three actually. I think what he's replying, or he's stating, is he would like to see the commission meetings up on the website. The board meetings are already there. Eric, is that a problem?
I will talk to the commissions about it. Typically, they're not recorded.
But they are, oh, they're not recorded even though they're on Zoom, they're not recorded. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then you're creating, you have a secret government. Those are illegal meetings.
All decisions, excuse me, sir, all decisions that are made for the benefit of this district are made at a board level. They are not made at a commission level. Do you understand?
Yeah, I kind of muted him. All the meetings are available and open to the public, Jeff, just like every other meeting.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
No
It is
problem.
not in here. But okay, we're moving on. Item F2, Chief Officer Report and Activity Summary. Number one, Chief, I'd like to thank you for your incredibly thorough reports. I'd like to start off and ask, does any member of the board have any questions for the chief on any of what he has supplied us?
Can I make a thank you comment instead of
Go
a
right ahead.
question?
Go right ahead.
Thank you for getting the guys out here for the wildfire prevention. I saw them up and down the streets going for a full week, and then they came to my house and they knocked on the door. They were very cautious with PPE and everything, and my husband opened up the gate and they did a walkthrough of the backyard with him and everything, and gave him some pointers on some of the things that he had questions about. And I'm really appreciative that you made that work and getting them out there and actually face to face with more people in our community. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Besides all the other wonderful things that you're doing. So sorry.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'll make sure I share the thanks with those who really deserve it, being Quinn Gardner, Sean Rule, and the inspectors themselves. They're the ones that are going out and really taking this serious and doing a conscientious job and trying to get to as many homes as they can and giving quality help by your account. So thank you so much for sharing that.
May I also add my thanks to our firefighters, but also you being representative of fire department for all fire departments of California for fighting these incredible infernos. So I would imagine I speak for everyone. Thank you very much, and much respect.
Well, thank you very much for that acknowledgement as well. I'll make sure that, again, I convey that to the crews, and it's my intent this week or next week to swing by Station 58 for a little while and talk with the personnel. And I'll certainly share the board's feelings and offers of acknowledgement. Thank you so much.
Anyone else on the board have questions for the chief? Okay, I have a couple. What do you think the holdup is on this executive director position for the MWPA? Any idea?
I have no idea. That's the tough part about it. I'm not sure if they're looking to convene again and then come with a recommendation, or maybe they're perhaps in negotiations with someone. I'd be speculating at this point, so I prefer not to do that.
That's fair. No problem. I just wondered if maybe new information had come forth.
Jeff, Leah raised her hand. Maybe Leah has information for us.
Oh, all right. I didn't see that. I'm sorry. I was looking at my notes. Leah, do you have something to say?
That's okay. I saw an email come through that they have indeed extended an offer, and then, like, there is somebody, but it'll be announced shortly. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate that update. One other question. Would you please remind me of the protocol? I noticed that there were at least 3 incidents where our firefighters suspect that their responses involved a COVID-19 patient. What happens in the, the aftermath of such a response? Do they get tested immediately? What happens?
Well, generally speaking, if they should be taking universal precautions in the event on any potential patient contact. They're doing everything they're supposed to do in the way of reducing the crew's exposure. If they get information in advance that the patient may be COVID positive, they certainly will send 1 of the 3 members to engage with that patient from a socially distant standpoint, but standing by and having communication and seeking to understand the chief complaint and doing a patient assessment, keeping the other crew members from needlessly being exposed. However, if you come across a situation where you have a stroke or a cardiac event or something where all hands are necessary now, everyone's still required to protect themselves. But one of the things they're supposed to do right away is put a mask on the patient to start providing airway, but also to provide dual protection so that that person doesn't exhale and create any potential issues for those that are treating them, or her. So that being said, there's some preventative things and some precautions that they take. And then there's follow-up, depending on whether or not they get confirmation later on from the hospital or from family members or the patient themselves to determine whether or not they had a high-risk contact or a low-risk contact. And so based on that, you have criteria that you operate from to determine whether or not testing and or isolation are necessary.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate that. Anything else from the board? Any questions or comments from the public?
1 second.
Thank you.
Yes, Stephen.
Thank you, Chief White. I'll be a little bit more calm in my delivery to you. Listen, you mentioned an incident on, the report mentions an incident on Las Galinas. What would be the cross street of that? Was that in Marinwood or San Rafael?
I did not get the cross street on that, but if I'm not mistaken, our Marinwood personnel responded to that incident. And so as such, I thought it was worthy to ensure that I included that in the report, considering that Station 58 responded on scene and provided some assistance there.
Right. So it's also important that we keep track of, where these incidences are. Hopefully it looks like everyone was okay. They responded well. And the only other thing I have to say is I join the rest of the board by, I really appreciate what our firefighters do. And I know it's been a very challenging summer for you guys, especially the last couple of weeks. So keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Stephen.
If you guys have a moment, I can share a little bit of data with you that might be helpful just to kind of put this current season in perspective. And it probably give you a 30-second or less summary if you're interested.
Please do. Thank you.
As of September 6th, we've had roughly 7,448 fires in the state, and 2,259,311 acres were burned. That made this so far the second largest wildfire season in state history. And we're still in early part of September, so this has the potential to be the worst season that we've actually encountered. We pre-positioned units locally based on red flag conditions, got approval through Cal OES to have some of our local units form a team that can be pre-positioned to respond immediately as a group of similar resources to be a force multiplier in the event there's an issue or an incident that takes place between now and tomorrow morning. And that was based on red flag conditions. And so tomorrow morning, those red flag conditions are projected to dissipate to some degree. That unit could be, those pre-positioned units could be redeployed elsewhere in the state, given we've got roughly right now 13 plus fires in various stages of containment, ranging from 0 down in the Fresno area to 95% in some of the areas that we've seen some of the larger incidents over the last few weeks. And so just wanted to share that little bit of information with everyone to help them understand that we're not quite out of the woods, but we have gotten a handle on some of the fires. The wood fire is an example. We don't have any other local resources on that incident currently. So that incident's winding down. They projected today will be fully contained, and I think they're probably very, very close if they haven't already claimed as much. They were at 95% containment. So that's about it. That's what I wanted to give you the quick rundown.
Very good. Thank you. Much appreciated. And yes, your acknowledgement that we are just at the beginning of this fire season is a bit sobering. Anything you can do about yellow skies? No, just kidding. But the other silly thing is, when are we going to start cloud seeding?
Wow. I hadn't heard of that practice since probably the 1950s. Are we?
Yeah, right. I mean, good. Let's make some rain. Come on, gee whiz. This is getting too funny.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
So the teams that you were talking about, that the groups from Marin, I thought it was kind of interesting, and I assume that this was this, and since you've mentioned it, I'm going to ask to confirm my suspicion. I had to go to FedEx to put a package in the mail, air filter that stopped working, that's under warranty, There was, I think it was Mill Valley, Tiburon, and San Rafael, and I didn't see the other truck, what it had on there, but there was 4 different fire trucks from 4 different cities hanging out at North gate. Was that the team for the red flag?
I would assume that's your pre-positioned team, absolutely.
They were very polite. They were going to open doors for me, but I was like, the door's already open, so thank you. So I was just wondering why they were all hanging out. So, okay.
Yeah, they're pre-positioned, so anything happens anywhere in the county, they'll form and immediately respond as a committed resource or group of resources to try to help quell something before it really gets a lot of momentum.
Okay, that's what I assumed they were, but thanks
Yep.
for confirming.
Absolutely.
Very good. Anything else for the chief? Chief, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Item F3, next Fire Commission meeting, October 6th. Moving on to item G, Park and Rec matters. And G1 is the draft minutes of the Park and Recreation Committee meeting as of August 25th. Any questions from the board or comments? Pardon me while I flip to that.
Nope.
We're still operating with 3 Park and Rec commissioners?
Yes, but I actually am somewhat optimistic I might have a 4th identified.
I see. Very good. Oh, well. I thought I had a question, but I guess not on the minutes. Nothing from the board on the PNR Commission meeting minutes. Okay, questions from the public? Just go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, well, love to hear what actually happened. It does kind of throw me that that you want to give the commissioners the option to make their meeting public, and I find that really quite off-putting. Is there a reason why it shouldn't be public? These are the board, these are the commissions, not the board. What's going on that is so deserving of secrecy that the public can't view what's going on? Is there any? So I would like to, you know, Tiffany's reports are, as I mentioned before, they're you can't really tell what's going on. It's less than a thumbnail of what occurred. We just want to know what's going on with half our district. So can you fill out some details to the minutes?
So the meetings, first of all, are public. You can join them via Zoom. Is that correct, Eric?
Correct.
Yeah. They are not recorded, is my understanding at this point in time, and that's the item we were talking about earlier.
You do realize that they are recorded, and because they are recorded, the public does have legal right to those meetings. So I mean, I hate to push it. I don't even know why we have to go down this route. It's a lot of extra stuff that we shouldn't have to deal with, but it's the way that you've chosen to conduct business that's really the problem, Jeff. I would hope you would care about your legacy a little bit more than being the most secretive director in Marinwood Community Services District history.
Well, I'm glad to be number one. Thank you so much for your comment. If I recall, Eric, you were saying that the commission meetings are not recorded?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just didn't want to make sure that I didn't mishear you.
And then basically you're being very sleazy by not recording them, because as you know, Eric, it's very easy to hit record and save the meetings and actually provide information, which you are paid a very nice salary to do, to provide to the public. You're doing a lot of work. You're committing a lot of cash. It's going to the person that hired you, Eric. It really stinks to high hell. And you better be above board, because you may be looking at a very different situation in a few months' time here.
I just wanted to reiterate that all the commission meetings are public meetings and can be attended by
That's very
anybody
fine.
who
Record.
would like to
Go
attend
public.
those. The governing body of the district, the decision-making body, is the board of directors. And boards meetings are
It's a-
also public, and the way to participate in the meeting is listed on the first page
You
of
know what?
each of the agenda. And in addition to that, they are recorded, posted on the website, and available for public review. If that's a
Isabella,
secret society, I
it's
really don't
it's
know.
the Brown Act, and I know that you're trying to be very careful here, but if you read it, public meetings have to be noticed. There's certain requirements, and when
They
they're
are noticed.
yeah, okay, and it recorded and made available to the
And
public.
the board meeting are recorded and available to the public in accordance
This
with
is
law.
not communist Poland.
Excuse
Okay.
me?
Okay, goodbye. The first off, there's nothing in the Brown Act that talks about recording meetings. It says if a meeting is recorded, it has to be held for 30 days. The commissions have chosen not to have their meetings recorded. All notices go out. Stephen is on every email agenda notice list.
One further comment, about a year and a half to 2 years ago, we did make changes to the written minutes to have them fall in line with the idea that any actions taken or any recommendations taken were documented. But if in the instance of, say, the last Park and Rec Commission, if it was discussion only, there were no recommendations, there were no votes, there were no action items that actually happened, then there was nothing really to report other than how Tiffany crafts those minutes.
Correct.
Could I chime in for just 1 second? The minutes were changed to amend or reduce the amount of verbosity that was in the original meeting minutes, according to, I don't know, one person. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. That happened several years ago. We went to shortened minutes.
I believe they are very objective right now and cannot be questioned.
Right.
Okay.
And I believe that they do reflect the same level of detail that other boards in our level have. So it's not that we are singularly doing this. This is across the board what I believe other districts are doing. So.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Let's move on. Item G2, Resolution 2020-06, approving applications for per capita grant funds. Eric, you want to give us some highlights here?
Yeah, I can really quickly. This is a process step. We went over this in some level of detail in my manager report from last month. Right now is simply a time where this resolution comes directly from the Office of Grants and Local Services from the state of California. It's in relationship to the Prop 68 per capita funds, of which I'm anticipating $177,000 coming to the district to be used strictly for capital outlay opportunities, not already planned or budgeted.
Very good. Does the board have any questions for Eric at all about this proposal?
No, this is one step in many. This is going to take a long time. So
Right,
might
understood.
as well get it moving now.
Yeah, I put the broad deadlines on the staff report that accompanied this. So yeah, I mean, to even submit a project application isn't technically due until December of 2021. That said, I don't envision we're going to wait until December of 2021. This was briefly discussed and included in the P&R packet from their meeting. And as I put in here, we're certainly going to discuss at the P&R commission level, kind of some brainstorming on potential projects, and any projects recommendations will eventually and ultimately come up to the board.
Okay, and this particular milestone has to happen before the end of this calendar month, is that correct?
Calendar year, yes.
Calendar year, so,
Yeah, not this month, but now is the time to turn it in. And like I said, the day after our last board meeting, I was on a couple-hour webinar. Actually, it might have been the day of our last board meeting. And this is, again, these are government grants, are process heavy and detail laden. And this is simply one step that says the board has authorized the district to move forward with this funding opportunity.
okay, understood. And the next milestone will be approved by the subsequent board, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't see any set projects coming within the next couple months.
Right, okay, very good. Any other questions or comments from the board? The public?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Eric, for unmuting me. I've gotten a little bit upset. I'm going to continue to be a little upset because of the business procedures, although I realize that probably doesn't make communication any better when I get upset. I am concerned, however, we're going for more money here. All that it's supposed to be for sounds good, just like the money that we got on the sales tax. I forget the name of that proposition. But unfortunately, all that money has gone into paying, for Bill Hansel's dream project. And I hope that the board and the future boards, if this money comes through, appropriately spends this money with the idea to serve the public. And the only way that can happen is if you make public what's going on within the district. For the life of me, I cannot understand why we have to continually request basic maintenance items in the park, like erosion control, park benches, repair of equipment. It just seems like there's such a lackadaisical approach to the maintenance of our parks, where it's really our greatest asset. It's just the money is not being adequately distributed where it needs to be distributed. Seniors just get a complete short shrift here. Maybe this is something that Jeff, in your retirement, maybe you'll want to get involved with, but there should be more stuff for seniors. We have a lot of them in the district, and so good luck in getting this grant money, but please let's stay engaged and think about ways to make this district a better place, more livable place for all of us.
Thank you, Stephen. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-06?
So moved.
I'll second.
Isabella, I think you got in, and Leah, second?
I'll let her second. I technically seconded, but I'll give it to Leah if she would like to
Yeah,
second.
let's sweat it around a little bit. Okay, very good. Isabella, motion, Leah, second.
Got it.
Any
Okay.
further? Go ahead.
Are you ready to
Any further
vote?
questions or comments? No, no, no. Okay. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Okay. Board President Naylor,
Aye.
Director Green,
Aye.
Director Oyserman,
Aye.
Director Perry,
Aye.
Director Shea.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, item G3, PNR maintenance activity report. Luke, anything to highlight on your report?
Thanks, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, just fine.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Just a couple things I'll highlight. Since we last met, we did wrap up our summer camp season on our August 14th. And we were, I think I already spoke about this last time in a projected way, but over the 9 weeks, we did serve 378 individual campers, which was great. We were the largest summer day camp program in all of Marin, it turns out, and we're really happy to have been able to provide that childcare for our local families. And made it through the summer with no positive COVID-19 cases. None of our groups were shut down, and we were able to stay safe and have a fun summer. So we're very relieved and happy to be through a successful summer season in spite of the pandemic and all of the challenges that came with that. Moving into fall, we are trying to run as many programs as we're allowed to. The guidelines are incredibly stringent right now on how many kids can be together in a class or a program, how many staff can be working with them, the number of weeks, the ways they can interact, the distance. There's a lot of complicating factors that limit the types of programs that we're able to offer. And the rec staff has been hard at work doing a lot of research, being in talks with the health department, with the other agencies throughout Marin, brainstorming and figuring out all the different things we can possibly do, working with our instructors to get creative and be able to still offer recreation classes to the adults and youth in our community. And so we're happy to be able to be offering tennis classes for adults and youth that are starting soon. Many seniors taking advantage of those adult tennis classes. We're offering a photography program that's largely virtual, but involves people going out on their own throughout our community and taking pictures of all the beautiful aspects of our community and submitting them to the instructor for critique, and then they get to share them with each other. And that's been a great program that's been going on throughout the summer, and we're continuing it. We'll be running an outdoor Pilates class, some virtual exercise programs that may or may not meet in person depending on the smoke and the air quality. And then we have a number of youth sports programs, so programs where we're starting this fall. Due to the guidelines prohibiting a lot of our indoor activities that we'd normally be running, we have tried to make up the difference by getting creative and finding programs that can run outdoors. So we've got a number of sports classes and camps that we will be running on the fields, of course, weather permitting, to kind of help provide activities and programs for our community. So the staff have been hard at work trying to figure out new ways to bring people on into our facility without actually having them indoors, and with all of the challenges. And so far we've got a lot of things on our plate that we're excited to be offering. Special events are out of the question right now for the most part, with large gatherings just being a no-go in the current situation. But we have been able to, we're organizing a virtual art show since the last 2 art shows had to get canceled. The first one due to the fires last year, and then this last spring due to the shelter. So Susan Press is working with the local artists of Marin to try to be able to exhibit their works that they haven't been able to exhibit here in the community center, in some sort of online virtual version of that we'll be sending out information of in the coming weeks, or information for, excuse me. So we're excited about that. And we continue to offer lap swim at the pool. We have been very popular booking up all of our reservations pretty much every week. And we've extended the season through the end of October to try to continue to accommodate demand. And we'll be starting to have the Marinwood Water Devils practice at the pool in the afternoons, starting in a couple weeks. So we're excited to be able to finally allow a program for kids to come swim in that capacity, as well as the adults and seniors that are taking advantage of the lap swim hours we have going on in the mornings and the afternoons. So that's been going really well. We're really happy to have been able to keep the pool open, and that there's a lot of people that are able to take advantage of that. So I'm really happy with the way the staff has coordinated that and retrained our part-time staff on how to sanitize everything and enforce the guidelines and make sure everyone's being safe. And that's been going really well. On the maintenance side, we continue to work on moving out of the park shop. It's been a big priority and a big project, and we've been making lots of headway, and we'll very soon be able to transition into our temporary workspace. So staff have been working very hard on that. Our other main project this last couple weeks is starting to work on the turf. and reviving that after the summer. So we're doing a lot of work on seeding and fertilizing and putting soil down and getting the parks freshened up to look their best going into the fall season. So those are I guess my highlights. Are there any questions from the board?
Go ahead.
A couple questions and couple comments. I guess I'll start off kind of where you left off with the building. In terms of possible upgrades to allow for no touch, I'm assuming that's hand washing and stuff.
Yeah, so looking at what we could do to have the automatic sink faucets that have the sensor, as well as toilet fixtures and possibly paper towels and all of that. So
Possibly, I'm sure you guys have talked to them. I know that Miller Creek District is looking at upgrading all the stuff before like kids get on campus to do that. So maybe they've done some of that research for you and you can piggyback on some of that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
just a thought.
Yeah, definitely. We've, I mean, there's lots of things available. So we're just looking at what we can install with the infrastructures we have and where the electrical is available in our old bathrooms, and just kind of trying to get a sense of what's possible and how much it's going to cost and how it's going to work. So
our district has some pretty old bathrooms.
Absolutely.
So not just our CSD, but like the schools. So that's why I was thinking it might be equivalent. Okay. Anyways, so are the camps that are currently running? So I saw a bunch of kiddos, probably first, second grade, maybe kinder, out in the green grass area near the tennis courts, and it said like sports after school camp. I saw like signs up. Is that us, or is that we're renting out our fields?
That so we've got a couple different things going on. The sports camp is a program that we're working with a contracted sports camp company, and we have an agreement with them. And then we have another sports program that is doing just a field rental. So we've got a couple different things happening, but the one you saw is through the recreation department, but it's a contractor.
Okay, because I don't know what what they're supposed to be doing right now. I'm assuming being outside, the kids don't have to social distance and don't have to wear their masks because nobody was doing so.
It's when they are doing physical exertion, which a lot of times with the sports camp, a lot of that they will be running around. They're not supposed to have a mask on during that, and then sometimes they're eating snack, but they're supposed to be wearing it when they're just being idle. So
okay, yeah, we saw them running around. My girls were like, "We're biking with our masks on, and they're not." And I was like, "Their parents aren't with them." That was my explanation. So I just was wondering.
Yeah.
And then just one last thing that's not really on here, but it's more of the fall programming and stuff. So I saw the sign. Are we not doing preschool? We're just going to do the camps?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, no, we're planning on running the preschool. We have, I think I mentioned it in a previous report, postponed the start date of our preschool program, kind of in line with when schools will be back inside. And in the meantime, we have plans to run more of an outdoor-based camp for that age group. And we're still finalizing details for that, and we'll be starting something fairly soon. But we are advertising it and working on that.
And we've had people reach out?
We have, yeah.
Okay, good.
Look, would it be possible to have financials for the summer camps by next board meeting? I know you usually report them together with the pool revenue and expenses, but since we're not going to see pool numbers finalized until November, could we take a peek next month for just the camps?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think we definitely have that ready to show. I believe everything will be wrapped up by then.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Luke from the board? Okay, well, congratulations on, I guess, made it through the summer camp season without incident. That's, I'm sure, more than just luck. With the effort that you and your staff have put together to pull that off. So congratulations.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. Okay, questions or comments from the public?
One sec.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. As usual, I think you do a great job with camp programs and the youth. I too would like to know, it's great that we're doing all this stuff, but is it making us money? Is it losing us money? Unfortunately, that's what we have to look at to continue programs. We want to do things that are profitable for the district and good for the community. As I mentioned before, as a taxpayer, as an ordinary citizen, I mean, we've not really gotten our money's worth this year because of pool closure and what have you. So anyhow, that would be very, very helpful in evaluating how well we're doing. As usual, you do a good job with the rec programs with children, but I seldom do I see any kind of outreach, anything for older adults. I had mentioned the pickleball issue. It's a couple of lines on the tennis courts. For some reason, you don't want to do it. I'd sure like to know the reason why, but that's something very easy that you can do that seniors will like to have for our tennis courts. Also, very little mention on the parks and what I would call the trails is a big area of my concern. I see a lot of erosion. I also see that we don't empty trash as frequently as we were doing at the beginning of this pandemic. Overflowing dog poop trash cans and that sort of thing. I hope that you pay attention to that. And also, we've got picnic tables, we've got fountains, we've got hand railings, we have all kinds of things that need to be done. And I don't know, maybe you don't have enough hours in the day to do both jobs, but I would really appreciate it if you did take focus on that, because that really is such an important part of what the CSD is about, community services district, park and recreation and fire and street lights. It's pretty essential. So I guess, I don't know, I'd give you probably an A- on A- because you haven't fully reported on your rec programs for youth, but in these other areas, I can't really give you a good mark at all. So hopefully we can see some improvement.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. I would just make one comment if I could.
Yeah.
Not to address all that, but just to assure you that when we do go out to start a new program or class or run on one of our recreation programs, we only move forward with it if we're going to be able to cover expenses. So yes, they are all running, not at a loss. Just to put that out there. But.
Thanks, Luke.
You're welcome.
Anything further? Okay. Next PNR Commission meeting, September 22nd. Okay, moving on. Item I, board member items of interest, requests for future agenda items. Anything from the board at all? Yes, go ahead, Isabella.
I would like to extend my greatest appreciation and thanks to our staff. I already made a point to thank our firefighters, to Chief White, but Eric, to you personally, Luke, and Tiffany, and the rest of the crew who has been braving through these bizarre times, and you were able to make a program happen that our community relies on, despite all the obstacles that have been thrown in your way. And I see that only great leaders are able to rise to challenges like this and make things happen despite what the world is throwing their way. So thank you from me, and I'm sure from the rest of the community. not only people who relied on the summer camp, but also just, other members of the community who come to the parks and walk the paths. And thank you. I'm just going to stop now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isabella.
Anybody else on the board? Okay, I would like to just acknowledge also that given our situation with this pandemic, the heat waves, the fires, everything that's seems to be happening at once, I think it is good to sit back and recognize the efforts of the Community Services District Board staff in not only providing the limited but effective programs they had, but also in helping ensure the health and the well-being of our entire community. That's something that maybe is overlooked, but I will say that from my perspective, the leadership and the coordination with the Community Health Services Department speaks well of our staff and how they've conducted themselves throughout this ordeal.
Here,
Thank you.
I have one request for a future agenda item. I'd like to request a closed session before the October meeting to review the district manager's contract. Is there anything else from the board?
I made note of Isabella's earlier request about the summer program financials.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, hearing none. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Isabella?
Second.
Jeff,
And Leah.
Jeff, I'm
What?
sorry. You have one last comment on the last section, one public comment.
Oh, I do?
Yes,
Oh, all right. I did not see that. Sorry.
quite all right.
Yeah, okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let you go shortly here. The first thing I wanted to do is thank each one of you for your service. Like I said at the beginning of the meeting, I know you're committed to the community, and I appreciate the work that you've done over these years. The other question I have is in reviewing the manager's contract, I would request that you put out a list of criteria by which you're going to, a performance evaluation, what it would include. So just the criteria, I'm curious how, if you do make adjustments, on what basis that you will be making those adjustments. Is that a reasonable request?
Good question. Is that something we usually publish?
Any templates that are used are public documents. Any actual evaluations and such are not.
Okay.
Okay, so put out the templates or, the criteria, that's fine.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Anything else from the public? I guess I missed the boat on that last one.
That's all right.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, I believe we still have a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
Is
Thank
that
you
okay,
all for
Tiffany?
attending. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for October 13th. We'll see you then.
Good night,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Thank you.
Aye.
Stay healthy.
Be well. Thank you.